gonna be. Give it up's gonna be alright.
We're only a few short weeks away from discovering the fate of disgraced NUS Trans officer Jess Bradley. The NUS's Trans campaign will be holding their annual conference between the 30th and 31st of January. Now, this has seemingly been brought forward because of the Bradley scandal, and I can tell because a couple of their own members seemed confused that this was the case. One even saying that they believed it was going to be later on around the same time as the Disabled campaign. This could probably be one of the last conferences that the NUS Trans campaign does. Now, I'll admit I'm sceptical they won't just brush Bradley under the carpet, taking into account how they've already acted. But with or without Bradders, the show must go on. As the NUS Trans campaign has revealed the list of motions they will be debating, I say debate, but we all know each one's going to pass. They've also, interestingly, released an accountability report for the year. Well, they've certainly been accountable already, haven't they? I'll go into detail in a bit, but first, let's discuss some of the motions raised by the Trans campaign. I was going to discuss this at a later date, but one of the motions in particular has been doing the rounds, and I wanted to add a little bit of context as to what's going on. Firstly, the number of motions this year are fewer than previous conference. Only 11 compared to the 19 they had last year, not including the emergency motions. Again, all of these passed. Now, could this be because the campaign doesn't have the guiding hand of Bradley to co-opt the movement? It could be. There's certainly no mention of prison abolition or drug reform or flashing. But maybe it's because the conference was brought forward, which caught aspiring queer activists completely unaware. It could also just be that people don't give a shit. I mean, after all, they needed to promote a bursary to get trans women and people of colour to attend, and clearly no one's clamouring to hear a group of far-left crybabies have a circle jerk. And many of these motions which are on here are the typical SJW-style rhetoric, and I know that's a really uninspired thing to say, especially in 2019, but queering the curriculum? I mean, that's nothing but whining about education as cis-normative frameworks that often exclude trans people. What a bloody important issue that is. There's nothing to critique there, it's just a fucking parody at this point, and there's plenty of it in this document, like one motion against Jair Bolsonaro, the recently elected Brazilian president. So what are you guys going to do about Bolsonaro exactly? But there are a number of motions which I think are worth discussing. One of these has actually been generating a lot of controversy already, and it's the reason why I kind of brought this video forward. And to the surprise of absolutely nobody, hopefully, the Trans campaign has raised yet another motion against fascism. Now, they had a similar motion last year. Did you do anything with that, guys? Sorry. Folks? No? Oh, maybe you'll get lucky this time. You know, keep at it. Like last year, the term fascist is left completely vague. There's no definition of what a fascist is, except they represent a distinct and violent threat to the safety and well-being of wider society. You know, kinda like the far left. And it's especially interesting that the conference believes bureaucratic methods enacted by those that seek to no-platform opponents should be avoided outside of opposing fascists. Oh, I suppose that sounds quite reasonable, except these people consider anyone to the left of Karl Marx to be a fascist. But a further amendment was tagged on, and this is what got it some attention online, where the conference says they should recognise that TERFs use fascist tactics. Now, one of the biggest criticisms I've seen of this online is that they use the term TERF rather than the more generally accepted gender-critical feminist. But come on, at this point, you've got to expect them to use that. It is what they do. But there are a few points in this which are worth talking about. Not in that they have any kind of point, but just listen to what they say. So the examples they give of gender-critical people using fascist tactics include doxing, which is something the far left like to do quite a lot. And it's something the likes of Antifa like to do. And we all know that Antifa have quite a lot of supporters within this campaign. Bit interesting that you're going to call these people out for a tactic you guys like to use. But then you also have them saying, well, they're teaming up with the religious right. Who cares? They get, like any political movement, they get allies. But then they say that gender-critical feminists are stirring up the demonisation of trans people on the street. How? Seriously, how are they doing this? Where's your evidence? I mean, all I see is unsubstantiated claims against gender-critical feminists. That they're going out there in these mobs, that they're shouting at people, you know, like rising up hate against the trannies, and they're all going to come with their pitchforks. Like, then these things just aren't happening. Remember the controversy with the stickers where they were saying that there was razor blades hidden underneath them, and that turned out to be a complete lie. They need to take a bit more responsibility here. These kinds of claims are just going to scare people on one side, and on the other side they're slandering them. I want to say they need to stop, but we know that they're not. And then they also highlight NUS activists who are trans being subjected to harassment. Who could they be referring to here? Could it be the one NUS trans activist who comes to everyone's mind, the one who gained national attention after allegedly whipping their dick out at work? Is that who it is? Then we have a few more brilliant motions, like one aimed at the NUS directors calling for further accountability and condemning reforms that NUS needs in order to survive. Like, the NUS is in a really bad financial situation, with a real threat of facing bankruptcy, and the trans campaign wants to ensure its own survival. But they're calling for accountability. Where's your accountability? There is the accountability document which is coming up, but you're not being held to account for the one thing that really matters. The final motion I want to discuss before we move on to all that, though, concerns a new group that the NUS Trans campaign is partnering with. Now, some of you might remember Action for Trans Health, which was the brainchild of Jess Bradley, who are a extremist trans organisation, but they seem to have fallen out of favour now that Bradley stepped away from those in April. So there's a big void, and a new group has come to take advantage of that, and their name is Queer Care. Now, I wonder what they're like. There's no point in me even joking around. You know that they're going to be Antifa supporters, and what a surprise! They're at protests with Antifa. They're selling Antifa merchandise, so that's nice. That's nice and not extreme and worrying in any way. But not only are they supporters of Antifa, they're not only anti-fascist, they're anti-doctor. They openly say on their website they don't believe in specialisation in primary care, and these are people who do not have medical qualifications. And what the NUS Trans campaign wants to do is point students in their direction for medical help. This is an absolute joke. This is... I know I was laughing, but for Christ's sake, the most important thing for trans people is access to decent healthcare. Let's forget ideology here. Healthcare is essential. That is what we need to be able to treat the condition which we have. And these kinds of groups are going to cause damage to vulnerable people. People, especially in university when they're at young age, they're going to be quite impressionable. They need to be able to go through the proper route through the NHS. Now, there are delays. There are a lot of people in the system right now, but these people need to be able to go through that. If they can afford to go private, that's even better. But what they don't need is Queer Care. Now, I'm going to probably do a bit more of a look into them. I've got a feeling they're going to have a few skeletons in their closet. But let's move away from the motions before I get a little bit too wound up. So let's take a look at the accountability report. That's right, they actually made an accountability report when they've been anything but this year. So are they going to say anything about Bradders? What do you think? What do you think? So let's take a look. And on the second page, they've got the whole committee there. But Where's Jess Bradley? Jess Bradley is nowhere to be seen. In fact, Natalia Mull has the top place as trans NEC second place. That's interesting, isn't it? That the leader is completely gone. Completely disappeared. No mention at all. Jess Bradley's name does not pop up at all in this document. Is the situation mentioned? It is. But let's take a look at how it's worded. So, according to Natalia Mull, my position as NEC second place has been unusual this year due to the campaign not currently having an acting full-time officer. That's interesting, isn't it? The whole way that's worded. What does that mean? It's kind of hard to really decipher it. So just before this was published, in fact, it might even have been on the same day, I spoke to the NUS about the Bradley investigation. Surprise, surprise, they told me it was still ongoing. But this would have been written a few weeks before that conversation as well. There's a few scant references to not having a acting full-time officer throughout the document. But I wanted to just have a quick look at some of the projects that they've been working on, like general activism. So they mentioned things about, I've been to Pride, I went to Trans Day of Remembrance service, and met up with these people, and we talked about this and that and the other, and it's like, well, you didn't actually do anything because you're queer activists, and this is a day out for you. Now, some of these do get quite hilarious, so let's take a look at the open place positions. So you have Sourrise OH. So I wonder what Sourrise did this year that was so important. Well, Sourrise set up a Facebook group for students who experience trans misogyny and is hoping that the group will be live within a couple of days of the report going up. That just speaks of someone who realised they haven't done anything and they were being given a report. Making a Facebook group takes like a couple of minutes. Now, this group does exist. This is something which they did. I was able to have a look at the NUS Trans campaign's private Facebook group. I don't know how I was able to get in, I just was. But it's just kind of funny that that's all this one person achieved. But Leo Siebert, Leo offered to book venues and promote events. That's just someone being like, is everything okay there? Do you need any help? Do you need a hand? Do you want a cup of tea? Do you want me to go get the paper? That is all this guy did. But then he also says, delivering trans and non-binary workshops in Scottish institutions where requested. Yeah, but clearly nobody requested them, or else you would have mentioned. Then we come to Zach Snape. Now, Zach Snape is one of the few people who seems to have a online presence. So obviously I don't want to link to his actual Twitter account. I don't want to be seen as encouraging any kind of abuse towards any of the people that I am discussing. I want to be quite clear about that. But it was interesting to see that Zach actually did tweet that NUS Liberation campaign officers are the most important members of staff of the NUS. So let's see the mountain that this guy did. Unfortunately, due to my degree workload and our full-time officer in NUS circumstances, I've been unable to work on any projects. It's like, I did nothing. Neat. But like, as funny as all these are, like, again, like, maybe these people just realised how pointless the campaigns are. Again, please don't, I'm naming these people only because they are in this document. Please do not give them any kind of abuse. I want to make that very, very clear. Going to be doing more videos before I have my surgery in the next couple of weeks. Please let me know what you think of this video. Again, this is another unscripted one. I realise that this has gone on a little bit longer than I was planning, but please let me know your thoughts and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.